Welcome to the Advisor Summit podcast, where we bring you conversations with the sharpest minds shaping the future of financial services. We're excited to welcome Ben Olsen, founder of Beemo Automation. Ben began his career in wealth management, serving as an advisor at both Merrill Lynch and an independent firm, giving him a deep, first-hand understanding of the real-world challenges advisors face every day. But it was his passion for solving those challenges that led to a bold pivot, diving into the world of tech, learning to code, and eventually becoming an AI engineer. Now, with Beemo Automation, Ben is using that unique combination of industry knowledge and technical expertise to help advisors streamline operations, eliminate inefficiencies, and embrace automations in a way that truly transforms their practices.
All right, Ben, welcome to the Advisor Summit podcast. We're so excited that you're here. Thank you for taking the time to just educate our listeners about AI. I think, like we were discussing before, it's kind of this overwhelming but also crazy cool concept that has really quickly taken off and grown into one of the key pieces of people's firms that can really help and just make them grow further in their analytics. So kind of talk to me, tell our listeners and our followers what you do, kind of what your journey was to starting Beemo Automation and how that came about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Totally agree with you. AI is kind of changing everything a little bit right now. And I'm really excited to be in the weeds with advisors, helping them navigate it, figure out how to use it. But yeah, to back up a little bit, I actually started my career as a financial advisor. I worked at an independent RIA here in Chicago, and then I went over to Merrill Lynch. And when I was over there, I was, kind of working on building my own book of business, but found myself like up late at night watching YouTube videos, teaching myself how to code, which is like kind of a weird thing.
YouTube University, man. I love it. There's nothing you can't learn.
No, you can literally learn anything. I did a master's degree, which I'll get to in a second, that I realized I probably could have done on YouTube, to be completely honest. But yeah, so was an advisor, but found myself increasingly interested in technology. So kind of left that world, did a complete 180 pivot, started working at a fintech company here in Chicago, learned a lot about technology, writing code, working with data, all that stuff. And then during that time, I actually did a master's degree in data science. So I learned a lot about kind of machine learning and all of the technology that's actually behind AI. And then right around when I finished my master's degree, OpenAI released this thing called ChatGPT. And they were like,
thing known as ChatGPT, just a casual thing.
Just a little thing that took some of the smartest people in the world like a decade and hundreds of millions of dollars to build. Yep. And they were basically like, well, here's the best AI model ever, and anyone can build products on top of it. So I immediately realized that's what I need to do. So I started my company about a year ago, Beemo Automation. And what we do is consulting and custom solutions. So we come into wealth management businesses, help them. We really try to understand how they operate, how their team is structured, what technologies they're using, and really map out any and all opportunities for AI and automation to be applied to their business. Then we kind of help them think through what's actually going to drive the most ROI. And then we'll actually help them implement and manage those solutions on an ongoing basis. So, that's the overview.
I think what's really cool too is you get so in the weeds with each, firm that you help. It's not like you're just coming in and saying, "Hey, here's a one size fits all." I think that's what really sets your, Beemo Automations apart from other firms, is that it's very customized. And I've even seen it personally just in some of the firms that Track That Advisor works with, is the more customizations that you can create to make AI feel real and feel like it actually fits in their firm and it's not just something they slapped on is huge. So I've seen a lot that you've done, and it's really cool to watch you grow and just be amazing about it. So
yeah, I appreciate that. And it's there are AI tools that aren't fully customizable that you can kind of just sign up for. And in a lot of situations we'll just like recommend a firm signs up for something if we think it's appropriate. But that's what we love to do is build the custom solutions. And AI is a foundational technology, and you can build all sorts of things on top of it. And it's not as hard or complex as you might think. So yeah, that's what we love doing.
I I think that's good to hear too, because I think initially when AI first came out, it was, again, kind of this daunting thing that no one wanted to touch with a 10-foot pole. And then as it kind of took traction and became more popular, it was like, wow, this is actually really incredible, and it
Yeah.
really can do so much. And even I was late to the game. So I feel like, whether you're in this generation or the next one, it's crazy. I started using ChatGPT maybe a month ago, and it has changed so much.
Mhm.
So it's really cool. But when you first started kind of your business in this industry, specifically for, RAs and financial advisors, what problem did you come in trying to solve? What did you see the need for that Beemo Automations is really here to solve?
Yeah. So at first, I didn't really know at first.
Yeah.
I did know from working in the industry that I felt like wealth management businesses were potentially technologically lagging compared to like working at like a fast growing tech startup.
Yeah,
I saw
absolutely.
technology applied in a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
So I knew that the industry kind of needed, better technology and likely some help adopting this kind of
Yeah.
software. So I kind of went into it just with that mentality. And then over time, we've, identified a lot of different problems and use cases for AI. And I think, there's tons of them, and I'm sure we'll probably get into that a little bit
Yeah.
deeper. But I think the theme, the overall theme is helping firms and helping advisors leverage AI in such a way that it's automating the kind of routine middle and back office tasks that they don't want
Okay.
to spend time on, so that they actually have more time to spend building and managing relationships with their clients, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what this business is all about. But
Yeah.
if you look at the studies and the data on where advisors spend their time, they don't actually spend a whole lot of time in front of their clients or as much as they
Yeah.
would like to.
Yeah.
So that's our goal, is to give them more time back in their day to do just that.
I feel like for the teams as well, I'm always such an ally for financial firms teams because yes, the advisor is a key pivotal person in that firm naturally, but at the end of the day, the team is also very supportive in those roles and
Mhm.
really helps the advisor launch into the next level, or, vice versa, it really holds the advisor back. So I'm curious like how AI is helping kind of those support teams in those back office functions. Is it like follow-up emails, for examples, or is it kind of walk me through some of the main things that you use AI for in financial advisors' offices?
Yeah, so there's a lot, and I typically try to think about them and lay them out kind
Yeah.
of throughout the client life cycle. So,
Okay.
there are things that you can use AI for starting all the way when somebody's a prospect, right? So, enriching data about your prospects, knowing when to reach out to them in a timely manner. And
Yeah.
then you get into client onboarding. There's all sorts of ways to leverage AI to make sure you're, collecting documents from clients, parsing data from those documents, getting that data pushed
Interesting.
out into external systems, right? Like that's a pretty manual, tedious process
Yeah.
that AI is helping streamline a lot. Once the client's onboarded, there's all sorts of opportunities to leverage AI for client communications, whether that be triaging inbound emails and
Yeah.
categorizing client service requests, routing them to the right people, adding notes and tasks into the CRM from emails, drafting email replies. There's all sorts of use cases there.
That's insane.
Meetings is the big one that everyone
Yeah.
talks about a lot. I think that's the one where we're seeing the most amount of time savings, right? Like there's all these AI for advisor note takers. So
Yeah.
that's another one we help with, meeting scheduling, meeting preparation, meeting follow up. All of that can be, either some steps can be fully automated or some steps are partially automated in some way through AI.
Yeah.
So, I could keep going down the list, but I'd
There's
say
a
those are
lot.
a lot of the main ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been even thinking, we've just started kind of adding AI into our systems and programs. And like for us personally at Track That Advisor, we are launching a resource center next week. And it is like all of the studies, all of the podcasts that we've done. And it's called like Ask EP, Ask Erica. And we'll ask it questions like, hey, what was the average case size last year compared to, 2023? In the way it is able to communicate exactly what, any coach at Track That
Mhm.
Advisor would say is really mind-blowing in one regard, but also just really cool because it really allows people to sift through data, and maybe they don't have the time or the patience or the capacity really to like understand, hey, I need to go back through all of these studies. They can just ask it a simple question, get the answer, and move on. So, I mean, AA in itself, just for sifting through data, is insane to me, but it's so, so, so cool to watch. So that's it. It's interesting. So, what are some of like the biggest inefficiencies that you see when you come into a firm that you feel like AI can solve? Is it the times piece of it, or what are some like, if anyone listening could solve one thing with AI, what would you say would be the biggest help for them?
Yeah, it's hard to say like one thing because honestly, like every firm's different and every firm
Yep.
operates a little bit differently. So I always encourage firms to start with like where are your bottlenecks and pain points, and then like start there, and that's what's going to drive the biggest
Okay.
impact for you. And that'll be different from firm to firm.
Yeah.
But with that being said, yeah, I think a lot of the inefficiencies are in some of the things that I had just mentioned, like onboarding. Everybody knows in this industry that like onboarding is like a huge, lengthy, very manual, very tedious process. So I think there's lots of ways to plug AI into that process to really streamline it. And then I think also less about like inefficiency and time savings, but there's also a lot of other benefits of applying AI to certain parts of your business. Things like setting up tracking systems to make sure all clients are getting added to the calendar for their annual review, and having AI identify ones that aren't, and drafting emails to them, or things like that. A lot of stuff like that leads to peace of mind that things aren't slipping through the cracks. You can also have AI do a lot of things like identify opportunities for proactive outreach. So yeah, I'd say there's definitely a lot of big use cases for solving inefficiencies, but there's all sorts of other benefits as well.
Yeah. We talked a lot about, advisors utilizing AI efficiently and potentially like outsourcing it for a company like you to come in and consult on that. But are there some common misconceptions that financial advisors have about AI and automation? Like, oftentimes they come to you and say, hey, this is what I think it is, and it's just totally off base? Talk me kind of through that and how that goes.
Yeah, I think there's a few misconceptions. I think the first and like biggest one is that, and this is something I'm like always talking about and preaching, and I think people are finally starting to realize this, but is that a lot of people think that there's like no place for it in wealth management because it's a relationship oriented business. And I think, going back to what I was saying earlier, when you use AI the right way, it's not about putting it in between you and your client and making your client feel like they work with a robot, which is what I think a lot of people think it might be.
Yeah.
It's about, having something working for you in the background and freeing up time for you so that you can actually have more time to deliver more of that human element. So yeah, AI is not something that makes you as an advisor feel less human. It's actually something that gives you way more time and way more insights to deliver more of that, high touch, personalized experience.
Yeah. I even think about just the humanity side of things. When you're so burnt out on doing the mundane background tasks, when you get to that client, it's oftentimes like, man, I just want to get through this meeting. You know what I mean? Versus
Such a good point.
if you're taking out the human element of being burnt out or being, really touched out with that, it's like, cool, I can come in here and focus on this because this is going to take the most effort of my day and the most mindset of my day and time. So I think it's huge. I think it's amazing what firms are doing with it and what you guys specifically are, but also it's daunting. I will always say that. It's daunting till you know it, right? I mean, I read it takes 20 hours to become an expert at something, which I felt was grossly under utilized there. I think it takes more than 20 hours, but all the studies show, and I'm like, AI is one of those things that you really can be an expert at it if you commit the time to it, and it doesn't have to be this daunting thing at all. So
yeah, I always encourage people to just like keep like Chat GPT or something like that open and use it throughout the day, right? Like we all like I compare it to like Google. Like when Google came out, nobody knew how to Google anything, but now we know how to like type something into Google very precisely to get the exact answer
that you want.
AI models are the same way. Like if you're just like, hey, help me do XYZ,
Yeah.
it may not be that good. But if you get really good
Train
at
it.
giving instructions, it'll start to be that much more powerful. And that just
Yeah.
comes with repetition. So
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's the evolvement of, technology is just continuous. I think about my
mhm,
kids now, they're like, well, just text, my friend's mom if they can come over. And I'm like, I would have never thought to text somebody. That was like when we
right,
were growing up, that just wasn't a thing. And now it's like every day there's new automations. And I really am a firm believer you can either embrace it and be uncomfortable for a little bit, but get that, next level and step up and go further, or you can shy away from it, but you're going to be left behind. Comfort is
totally.
the absolute enemy of progression. And so it's like, be uncomfortable and be okay with that. So, and having a resource like you to come to and be like, hey, what should I do with this? Is this the best plan of action, or do you have a
Mhm.
different suggestion? I think is also really helpful. So, how do you see like AI transforming the financial industry in say like the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, it's still relatively new in my mind, maybe not, but for others, but I still feel like AI is a relatively new concept. So in the next 3 to 5 years, how do you see it really transforming the industry?
Yeah. So I think it obviously, like as we've been saying, it enables advisors to be so much more efficient and allocate their
Yeah.
time towards new things. So I think what that looks like in like 3 to 5 years is advisors can serve many more clients than they can
Okay.
right now with the same amount of workload. And
Huge.
so, what I think that looks like from a holistic perspective is I think it really expands the access of a financial advisor or wealth management services to a whole new set of people that might not typically meet like the minimums of a firm today, right? Like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of wealth management businesses don't work with clients who have under X amount of assets because
Yeah.
they
Qualified
feel
lead.
that the amount of time they need to spend servicing that client is not worth, the revenue that they're going to get from them. But when the amount of time needed to serve that client drastically decreases, they can then expand their books, work with so many more clients, and
Yeah.
also lower those thresholds, and enable advisory to some of those maybe younger or smaller accounts that will grow
Yeah.
over time. So that's kind of I think the big theme, and kind of the I guess macro outcome of what the efficiency gains will cause, I
Yeah.
think.
I think that's huge too, because I do think that is a really untapped market is those that maybe aren't qualified enough because of the time perspective, but they still need help as well. And as
Mhm.
fiduciaries, I do feel like, yes, like you are still a CEO and a business manager, but there is an untapped market that really needs help. And like that is what we do is we help people. And it's a really interesting platform to be on. So what's next for Beemo Automation? Anything fun, exciting projects or innovations in the pipeline?
Yeah, so it's hard to say what's next for us because we have strategically positioned our business to kind of be platform, tool, and use case agnostic.
Okay.
And so we're kind of just following along. And as the technology and the AI landscape changes, that's
Yeah.
inevitably going to change, our approach to helping businesses leverage it. So
Yeah.
it is kind of hard to say like what the,
Yeah.
the future really looks like for us. We definitely have goals to be the strategic partner for a certain number of firms of all
Mhm.
shapes and sizes, but we're staying really flexible in our
Yeah.
approach because the landscape is changing so rapidly. That being said, I think there is kind of a problem that has been identified with how AI is being applied to this industry, and that's lack of access to data. Right? AI is only as
Yes.
good as the data it has access to,
Yeah.
and as we all know, wealth tech is incredibly fragmented. The
Yes.
Kitses map is like so small you can't even read it, or so big that you can't even read what's on it anymore.
Yeah.
And most firms are working with like 10 to 15 different technologies. So
Yeah.
in order to truly unlock the power of AI, it's important for firms to start kind of centralizing their data and getting it all into one place, and then
Yeah.
deploying AI over the top of that. So that's a space we've been kind of moving into is helping
Interesting.
firms own their data, getting it out of their tools and into a centralized repository, still using those tools, but having
Yeah.
this central hub, this central source of truth, that has information from all of their systems, so that you can build the most impactful AI
Yeah.
tooling on top of that.
Why do you think it is so fragmented? What, has no one come up with a solution that really like solves all of these problems? Because I hear that all the time. And I feel like that even at Tracted Advisor, everyone's like, I just don't want I don't want one more platform I have to log into in the morning. I'm already coming in, opening my 10 different, platforms, trying to figure out my 10 different places. Why is it so fragmented, especially in comparison to other industries?
Yeah, so I think tech fragmentation is kind of a universal problem. I do think it is especially so in our industry.
Hmm.
I think everybody's dying for the all-in-one solution. Like,
I
why
love
do
it.
I have to jump from a CRM to a financial planning tool to a portfolio analytics tool to my
Yeah.
scheduling software, right? And I think the reason is because it's much easier to innovate when you're like a small startup building like a little point solution, right?
Sure.
And I think like we're seeing a great example of this right now. Like all these like AI for financial advisor meeting note takers are popping up, right? Like there's like
Yeah.
15 new companies that are doing that. And so that's crowding the space with new tech solutions. But at the same time, you have companies like Wealthbox or even Calendly are now building note taking into their products.
Yes. Yep.
So I think it's fragmented because big companies can't innovate as quick as little ones. So a bunch of little ones pop up
Makes
solving
sense.
little point use cases. And
Yep.
then ultimately that kind of gets absorbed into the big ones. But I will say, I do think AI will be what solves that fragmentation over time.
Interesting.
I think, I envision a future where 5, 10 years from now, whatever that is, there's one interface, whether that is an interface, whether that's an agent, like whatever it is, there's one entry point into your technology.
Yeah.
And AI and smart technology is just doing everything in the background for you.
Yeah, it makes sense. Kind of like Meta for social media. You know what I mean? Like, yes,
Yeah,
you have all these kind of different pieces, but there's really one launch point within that.
yeah. And so I
Yeah.
think that's where we'll get to eventually. So, I think the tech fragmentation has been an issue for a very long time,
Yep.
and it's just comes from that natural cycle of innovation. But I do think like AI will be the what kind of solves that.
Really that you putting all your red chips on AI, putting all your chips on red with AI. But I
Right.
don't blame you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's still like a true innovator. It's capturing that next piece of the level of what's gonna happen. So last question, where are you trekking personally this year? We are big trek theme fans and just, mountains and adventures. So if whether you're doing something cool with your life or whether it's just honestly being more low key and more peaceful. So where are you trekking this year?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I hate to make this I hate to make this about my business,
Yeah.
but like I'm
It's
spending so
here.
much of my time working at my company, so it's like pretty
Yes.
much defining my whole life right now. So I'm really excited to continue growing our team and
Cool.
working with really smart people. I got a lot of conferences I'm going to and speaking at this year, so just
Yeah.
really excited to continue to meet other really smart folks in the industry, continue building out a team and continue, building a lot of new relationships.
Yeah.
This entrepreneurial journey has been very fun and very exciting. And one thing I love about it is, the people I get to
Yeah.
meet and the opportunities I get to be
Yeah.
introduced to people. So that's something I'm really excited for. Um, Trying to think of like a more personal answer because I feel
No,
like
I
that's
love it. I
really
feel
what
like it's
you're
the
looking for.
entrepreneurial mind. You know what I mean? Like it is your life. You don't have necessarily time to go run a half marathon or a marathon or whatever. So it's like really, and I think I also want to touch on what's really special is the people in this industry. I agree with you. It's
Mhm.
just, and it's what we were talking about before. It's such a small world because you get to meet so many really cool key players. And within that, it's like the abundance mindset as well, where it's like we all can help each other. It's never like a competition in my mind. It's like, hey, you do something very different than I do. Let's like work together to make it great for the people that we serve. So I
Mhm.
think it's awesome. You don't need to get any more personal with it. I love it. I love that you love your company. If people want to get in touch with you for your services, what's the best route to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is just beemoautomation.com, Beemo automation.com. People can fill out like a form there or book a call with me there. I'm also like pretty big on LinkedIn, Ben Olsen, Beemo Automation. So I'm always posting things about like tips and tricks for advisors to
Yep.
use AI, information about things we're building for other firms. So if anyone wants to give me a follow there and shoot me a message, I read them all. So.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, Ben, for your time. We appreciate you. We'll chat soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.